in terms of Everton, it seems like the John Textor deal is at a little bit of a standstill potentially at the moment. Is that concerning at all for the club, or is it no surprise given some of the things we heard a couple of weeks ago about potentially pushing it back to January?
Well, I'd be very concerned if I was an Everton fan, but just because the reporting this week suggests that there's nothing going on. I mean, the Athletic, there was an Athletic piece that claimed that having spoken to all the parties, it was all quiet and there were no new potential bidders. But John Textor has this, what appears to be an insurmountable problem right now of his Palace shares. I don't think those are going to be easy to sell to a third party. It's a minority stake in a club where there's some pretty strong-minded partners. So I would think it's going to be hard for Textor to be in a position to do anything, even in January. But look, I guess if you wanted a positive spin, Everton and Mashiri seems quite relaxed. He's not, in the absence of him clearly running around looking for an alternative, that would suggest that they do have the money to get them through to January. It seems surprising, but if he's calm, then who are we from the outside to say that he's wrong? He's got access to the numbers that we don't have. But if I was in Everton's position, and it was quite a while ago, but I was in a similar position as an advisor to City when we were trying to sell in 2007, and you need a bit of competitive tension, and you need some interest in the deal, because without the competitive tension, it's very, very hard to get the deal over the line. And and obviously on the pitch, it's a very difficult situation for Everton so far this season. And it's not going to make it easy to sell the business if they're not performing on the pitch. Again, I did have this when I was advising Manchester City. We were poor on the pitch, and it definitely doesn't help because there's a risk of relegation throughout the whole sale process. And clearly relegation materially changes the value of the club. So I don't know. We just don't have enough information really in terms of what's going on. But I wouldn't, from the outside, it doesn't sound like good news that there aren't people chomping at the bit to get hold of the club. I mean, you would want that. You'd want that desire from a third party to be doing a deal, and for a third party to be in a position to be able to do that deal. But it doesn't seem to be there.
Thinking back to when you were at City in those instances when they weren't doing too well on the pitch and there was all the takeover stuff going on, can those factors with the takeover have a real impact on the manager, his staff, and the players, and that goes through the club, and that's potentially why the results aren't as good because they?
Yeah. I was one step removed because I was the advisor, the financial advisor. So my interactions were with the board, so it wasn't always apparent to me how it was filtering down to. It was Stuart Pearce was the manager at that time, and the players. What I do recall, more as a fan than as an advisor, was that we didn't score a home goal from January the 1st all the way through to the end of the season. And so you can imagine that kind of pressure building within the club. Look, the instability is always going to be a problem for any organization. It doesn't not just football clubs. Instability about ownership and viability is always going to be an issue. And that's just one of those things that they're going to have to deal with. And frankly, I've had to deal with for 2 years now. So I don't know. It's a challenging situation for everybody involved, including for the executive team to have held it together so far. They've done an amazing job given all the challenges that they've had. But at some point, it seems like they do have to do a deal because they are going to need some money. So I don't know. It's not that easy to work out from the outside how they're going to deal with this problem.
And one of the elements of the legal fees in this week, the Premier League, it came out that the Premier League failed in an attempt to charge Everton £4.9 million for the legal fees regarding their PSR case last season. Does that decision make sense, like given what the verdict was and how it read?
Yeah, I mean, you have to really read the whole of the cost decision to understand the rationale around why they were only awarded £1.7 million. The Premier League bill of nearly £5 million does seem excessive, but that is the nature of having the best representation that money can buy, and that's what the Premier League have had. They've had Linklaters, who are one of the premier law firms in the world, and they've had barristers who are some of the premier barristers in the world. So, of course, it's going to cost a lot of money. I mean, all that the independent commission said was that you can't reclaim all of it from Everton. You're going to have to wear some of that cost yourself. And it's just a fact of life in these sorts of cases. I think maybe the Premier League would have felt, given the outcome of the independent commission and given that so much of their position was vindicated by the independent commission in the Everton case, they probably will have felt that they should have got more of their costs back. But it's a lesson really in terms of keeping costs proportionate and reasonable. And clearly, the independent commission didn't feel that they were.